You were not built to be comfortable. You were built to win. Written and published by Mindset Academy. Chapter 1. The Lie of Comfort. There is a quiet deception that has settled into the modern mind, a soft and persuasive whisper that tells ordinary people that the highest goal in life is comfort, that success is measured by how little resistance one encounters, how few risks one must take, and how gently one can pass through the days without strain or sacrifice. Yet this whisper, though pleasant to hear, carries within it the seeds of stagnation. For comfort, when pursued as a destination rather than enjoyed as a temporary rest, slowly weakens the spirit, dulls the instincts, and convinces the individual to trade growth for convenience, progress for safety, and destiny for familiarity. The human being, from the very beginning of history, was never designed to remain still, never designed to avoid effort, and never designed to seek ease above all else, but was instead shaped by challenge, strengthened by resistance, and elevated by the willingness to push beyond the boundaries of what feels safe. If one studies the lives of those who have achieved anything meaningful, builders, leaders, creators, and innovators across generations, one quickly discovers a pattern that repeats itself with striking consistency, a pattern that reveals that every significant breakthrough was born not from comfort, but from discomfort deliberately embraced and patiently endured. The great achievements of civilization were not constructed in moments of relaxation, but in seasons of strain, in long hours of focused labor, in repeated attempts that failed before they succeeded, and in quiet decisions made when it would have been easier to quit. This is not a message of hardship for its own sake, but a reminder that progress requires friction, just as strength requires resistance and growth requires pressure. Comfort, when examined closely, is not the enemy, but it becomes dangerous when it becomes a master, when it begins to dictate decisions, limit ambition, and shape expectations in ways that shrink one's potential. A warm bed on a cold night is a gift. A moment of rest after honest work is a blessing, and a peaceful home is a treasure. Yet when comfort becomes a primary goal, it slowly transforms from a reward into a cage, surrounding the individual with soft walls that feel pleasant to touch but prevent forward movement. Many people remain trapped in this invisible cage for years, convincing themselves that they're content, while quietly feeling persistent dissatisfaction that comes from knowing deep within that they were capable of more. To understand why comfort can be so dangerous, one must first understand the nature of the human mind, which is naturally inclined toward efficiency and conservation of energy, always seeking the path of least resistance unless deliberately guided in another direction. This instinct served humanity well in earlier times, when survival depended on preserving strength and avoiding unnecessary risk. But in the modern world, where opportunities are abundant and challenges are often psychological rather than physical, this same instinct can hold people back, encouraging procrastination, hesitation, and avoidance of difficult tasks that lead to meaningful progress. The disciplined individual therefore learns to challenge this instinct, to step willingly into effort even when the body prefers rest and the mind suggests delay. There is a powerful transformation that begins to occur when a person makes the conscious decision to stop negotiating with comfort and start negotiating with their own potential. For in that moment they shift from being a passive participant in life to becoming an active architect of their future. They begin to wake earlier than necessary, to work longer than expected, to practice skills beyond the point of convenience, and pursue goals that require sustained effort rather than temporary enthusiasm. These decisions, though small in isolation, accumulate gradually, forming habits that reshape character and redefine identity. The truth is simple yet often overlooked. Winning, in any meaningful sense of the word, requires a willingness to endure temporary discomfort in exchange for long-term reward. The athlete who trains before sunrise, the entrepreneur who studies late into the night, the student who practices until mastery is achieved, all share a common understanding that success is not granted to those who seek comfort, but to those who pursue excellence with persistence. They do not reject comfort entirely, but they place it in its proper position as a rest stop along the journey rather than the final destination. There is also a deeper philosophical dimension to this principle, one that speaks to the very purpose of human existence. For life itself is a process of growth, adaptation, and discovery, and growth cannot occur in an environment where nothing is challenged and nothing is stretched. Muscles grow stronger when they are pushed beyond their current capacity. Minds become sharper when they are exposed to complex ideas, and character becomes resilient when it is tested by adversity. Comfort, when uninterrupted, deprives the individual of these opportunities, leaving potential undeveloped and strength untested. In the early stages of transformation, the rejection of excessive comfort often feels uncomfortable, even unnatural, because the mind has grown accustomed to ease and predictability. Yet with time and repetition, discomfort begins to feel familiar and effort begins to feel satisfying. The individual discovers a strange but empowering truth. That discipline, once established, creates a deeper form of comfort than laziness ever could, a comfort rooted not in ease, but in confidence. The confidence that comes from knowing one can handle challenges, overcome obstacles, and continue moving forward regardless of circumstances. As this realization takes hold, the individual begins to see the world differently, noticing opportunities where others see obstacles, recognizing potential where others see risk, and embracing effort where others seek escape. They understand that every challenge carries within it the possibility of growth, and that every moment of discomfort is an invitation to become stronger, wiser, and more capable. And so the journey begins with a simple but profound decision, a decision to stop worshiping comfort and start pursuing purpose, to accept the temporary strain that leads to permanent strength, and to recognize that the path to victory is rarely easy, but always worthwhile. The person who makes this decision steps onto a road that demands discipline, patience, and courage, yet rewards those qualities with progress, achievement, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that they have lived according to their potential rather than their preferences. For you were never built to remain comfortable, drifting through life without challenge or ambition, but were instead built to strive, to grow, and to win, not by accident, not by luck, but by the steady application of effort and the unwavering belief that your greatest victories lie just beyond the boundaries of your comfort zone. Chapter 2. The Discipline of Choosing the Hard Path. There is a quiet fork in the road that appears in the life of every individual, not once, but repeatedly, sometimes in obvious ways and sometimes in moments so ordinary that they pass almost unnoticed. And at this fork there are always two paths, one smooth and familiar, promising ease and immediate satisfaction, and another rough and demanding, offering growth, resilience, and long-term reward. The tragedy of many lives is not that opportunity was absent, but that the easier path was chosen so consistently, so automatically, that the harder path slowly faded from view until comfort became routine and potential remained forever unrealized. Yet those who achieve extraordinary outcomes are not necessarily more talented, more fortunate, or more intelligent than others. They are simply more willing to choose a difficult road when it matters most, understanding that difficulty is not an obstacle to success, but the very condition that makes success meaningful. To choose the hard path is not an act of recklessness, nor is a rejection of rest or balance, but rather a deliberate alignment with growth, a conscious decision to place development above convenience and progress above pleasure. It is the student who studies when others relax, the professional who prepares when others procrastinate, and the dreamer who continues working long after enthusiasm has faded. These choices, though small in isolation, accumulate over time, shaping character in the same way that steady drops of water carve deep channels into stone, slowly but permanently altering the landscape. The difficulty of the hard path lies not only in the effort it requires, but in the patience it demands, for growth rarely reveals itself immediately, and progress often unfolds in silence, without applause or recognition. There are long stretches of time when effort seems invisible, when improvement feels slow, and when the temptation to return to comfort becomes almost irresistible. In these moments, discipline becomes a guiding force, reminding the individual that success is not measured by daily excitement, but by consistent action carried out regardless of mood or circumstance. There is also a psychological transformation that occurs when one repeatedly chooses a harder option, a shift from avoidance to engagement, from hesitation to confidence, and from doubt to determination. Each difficult decision strengthens the mind, proving that discomfort can be endured and that challenges can be overcome. This repeated exposure to difficulty builds resilience, a quality far more valuable than temporary comfort. For resilience allows the individual to remain steady in the face of uncertainty, to continue moving forward when others retreat, and to transform obstacles into opportunities. It is important to recognize that the hard path does not remain hard forever, for what begins as struggle gradually becomes habit, and what once required intense effort eventually feels natural. The runner who once struggled to complete a single mile eventually runs long distances with ease. The speaker who once feared the sound of their own voice eventually addresses audiences with confidence, and the entrepreneur who once hesitated to take risks eventually makes bold decisions with clarity. Difficulty, when faced repeatedly, loses its power to intimidate and becomes a familiar companion on the journey toward mastery. Another truth emerges from the discipline of choosing the hard path, and that truth is that comfort, when earned through effort, feels profoundly different from comfort obtained through avoidance. Rest after meaningful work carries a sense of satisfaction, a quiet pride that comes from knowing progress has been made, while comfort sought without effort often brings restlessness, a subtle feeling that something important has been left undone. The difference between these two forms of comfort is the difference between fulfillment and regret. There is also a moral dimension to this principle, for choosing the hard path strengthens integrity, the alignment between intention and action. When individuals commit to difficult goals and follow through despite resistance, they develop trust in themselves, a belief that their promises carry weight, and that their actions reflect their values. This self-trust becomes a powerful foundation, enabling them to take on greater challenges with confidence and to lead others with credibility. The world, in its quiet wisdom, rewards those who consistently choose the difficult road, not immediately and not always visibly, but inevitably. Opportunities tend to gather around disciplined individuals. Responsibilities expand in proportion to reliability, and success follows those who demonstrate persistence. These rewards are not gifts, but consequences, natural outcomes of sustained effort applied over time. Yet perhaps the most profound lesson of the hard path is that it reveals the true capacity of the human spirit, showing individuals that they are capable of far more than they once believed. Each challenge overcome expands the boundaries of possibility, turning what once seemed impossible into something merely difficult, and what once seemed difficult into something routine. This expansion of capability becomes a foundation of confidence, a steady assurance that future obstacles can be faced with courage rather than fear. As the journey continues, the individual begins to anticipate difficulty rather than avoid it, recognizing that every demanding task carries a potential for growth and that every uncomfortable moment is an opportunity to strengthen discipline. This shift in perspective transforms hardship from an enemy into an ally, a force that pushes the individual toward excellence rather than away from it. And so the lesson of this stage is clear and enduring. Do not ask which path is easiest, but which path will make you stronger. Do not measure decisions by comfort, but by consequence. And do not fear difficulty, for difficulty is a training ground of champions. Those who learn to choose the hard path consistently will discover, in time, that the life they build is not only more successful, but more meaningful, shaped by courage, discipline, and the unwavering commitment to become the best version of themselves. Chapter 3. The cost of staying the same. There is a hidden price attached to comfort, a quiet and often invisible cost that accumulates slowly over the years, not in dramatic losses or sudden failures, but in missed opportunities, unrealized potential, and the subtle erosion of confidence that occurs when one repeatedly chooses familiarity over growth. And this cost, though rarely noticed in the moment, becomes painfully clear with the passage of time, when individuals look back and realize that the life they are living is far smaller than the life they once imagined, not because they lacked ability, but because they hesitated to change. Remaining the same may feel safe in the present, yet safety without progress gradually transforms into limitation, and limitation, when accepted for too long, becomes regret. Change, by its very nature, demands effort, uncertainty, and courage, for it requires the individual to step beyond established routines and confront the discomfort of learning something new. Yet the refusal to change carries consequences far greater than the temporary discomfort of growth. Skills that are not developed lose their relevance. Opportunities that are not pursued disappear, and ambitions that are not acted upon slowly fade into distant memories. The world continues to move forward. Technology evolves, industries transform, and expectations rise, leaving behind those who cling to outdated habits and resist adaptation. In this way, stagnation becomes more dangerous than failure, for failure teaches lessons and encourages improvement, while stagnation quietly convinces the individual that improvement is unnecessary. There is a psychological weight that accompanies prolonged stagnation, a sense of restlessness that grows stronger with each passing year, as the individual begins to feel the tension between who they are and who they could have become. This tension often appears as frustration, boredom, or dissatisfaction, emotions that signal the presence of untapped potential seeking expression. Yet instead of responding to these signals with action, many people attempt to silence them through distraction, filling their days with activities that provide temporary comfort but no lasting progress. They postpone decisions, delay commitments, and avoid challenges, hoping that clarity will arrive without effort, unaware that clarity is a product of movement rather than stillness. The cost of staying the same also reveals itself in the gradual loss of confidence, for confidence is not an inherent trait, but a byproduct of action. Each time an individual faces a challenge and persists until completion, confidence grows stronger. Yet each time a challenge is avoided, confidence weakens slightly, creating doubt about one's ability to succeed in the future. Over time, this pattern of avoidance can create a cycle of hesitation, in which the individual becomes increasingly reluctant to pursue opportunities because they no longer trust their own capabilities. Breaking this cycle requires a deliberate decision to confront discomfort, to take action despite uncertainty, and to rebuild confidence through consistent effort. Another consequence of remaining unchanged is the narrowing of perspective, for growth exposes the individual to new ideas, experiences, and possibilities, expanding their understanding of what is achievable. Without growth, perspective becomes limited, shaped only by familiar routines and predictable outcomes. This limitation can create the illusion that success is reserved for others, that opportunity is scarce, or that change is impossible, when in reality these beliefs are simply reflections of inaction. The disciplined individual challenges these assumptions by seeking new experiences, learning new skills, and engaging with challenges that broaden their vision. It is important to recognize that change does not require dramatic transformation overnight, nor does it demand perfection from the beginning. True progress occurs through small, consistent adjustments, decisions made daily that gradually shift the direction of one's life. A new habit practiced regularly, a skill developed patiently, or a goal pursued steadily can alter the course of the future in ways that are difficult to imagine at the start. These incremental changes, though modest in appearance, possess immense power when sustained over time. There is also a profound sense of freedom that accompanies change, a liberation from the limitations of the past, and the realization that one's future is not predetermined, but shaped by choices made in the present. This freedom inspires courage, encouraging the individual to take risks, explore new opportunities, and pursue ambitions that once seemed beyond reach. It transforms fear into curiosity and hesitation into determination, creating momentum that carries progress forward. The world, in its quiet fairness, rewards those who adapt, those who remain flexible in the face of uncertainty and willing to evolve in response to new challenges. Adaptation does not mean abandoning one's values or identity, but refining them, strengthening them, and applying them in new ways that reflect changing circumstances. The individual who embraces change becomes resilient, capable of navigating obstacles and seizing opportunities with confidence. As the journey continues, the lesson becomes increasingly clear. The greatest risk in life is not failure, but the decision to remain unchanged, to cling to comfort while the world advances, and to settle for familiarity while potential waits patiently to be realized. The cost of staying the same is measured not in money or status, but in lost possibilities, in dreams left unpursued, and in the quiet regret that arises when one realizes that time one spent cannot be reclaimed. And so the path forward begins with a simple but powerful choice, a choice to move, to grow, and to embrace change as a necessary companion on the journey toward success. Those who make this choice discover that discomfort, though challenging at first, becomes a gateway to strength, opportunity, and fulfillment, proving once again that you are not built to remain comfortable, but to rise, to evolve, and to win. Chapter 4. Pressure reveals who you truly are. There comes a moment in every serious life when comfort disappears, when circumstances tighten, expectations rise, and the familiar rhythm of routine is interrupted by pressure. And in that moment, something important is revealed, not to the world, but to the individual themselves. Pressure has a unique way of exposing character, stripping away excuses, and forcing a clear confrontation between intention and action. It is easy to appear disciplined when conditions are favorable, when energy is high, and when obstacles are minimal. But true discipline is measured in moments of strain, when fatigue sets in, when resources are limited, and when success feels uncertain. These moments are not interruptions to progress. They are the proving ground where strength is developed and identity is forged. Many people misunderstand pressure, viewing it as an enemy to be avoided rather than a force to be harnessed. They seek environments that minimize difficulty, hoping to maintain a steady sense of comfort. Yet comfort rarely produces growth, and environments without challenge often lead to stagnation. Pressure, when approached with the right mindset, becomes a catalyst for transformation, accelerating learning, sharpening focus, and strengthening resilience. It demands clarity, forcing individuals to prioritize what matters most and to eliminate distractions that once consumed their attention. Consider how pressure operates in the natural world. Diamonds are formed under intense conditions. Steel is strengthened through heat, and muscles grow only when subjected to resistance. In the same way, human capability expands when confronted with challenge. Without resistance, there is no adaptation. Without challenge, there is no progress. Pressure is not a sign that something is wrong, but evidence that growth is taking place, that the individual is moving beyond their previous limits and stepping into new territory. There is also a psychological shift that occurs when individuals learn to operate effectively under pressure. Instead of reacting with panic or hesitation, they develop composure, the ability to remain calm and focused even when circumstances are demanding. This composure is not a natural gift reserved for a few. It is a skill cultivated through repeated exposure to challenge. Each difficult situation navigated successfully builds confidence, reinforcing the belief that obstacles can be managed and that setbacks can be overcome. One of the most valuable lessons pressure teaches is the importance of preparation. Those who prepare consistently find that pressure becomes manageable, even predictable, while those who rely on last-minute effort often feel overwhelmed. Preparation creates stability, providing a foundation that supports performance when conditions become demanding. It transforms uncertainty into opportunity and fear into readiness, enabling individuals to respond to challenges with clarity rather than confusion. Pressure also reveals the strength of commitment. When goals are pursued casually, obstacles feel unbearable and motivation fades quickly. Yet when goals are deeply meaningful, individuals find the strength to persist despite difficulty. Commitment acts as an anchor, holding steady when circumstances become turbulent. It reminds the individual why they started, what they stand for, and what they are willing to endure in order to achieve success. Another dimension of pressure is its ability to sharpen decision-making. In calm conditions, choices may be delayed or avoided, but under pressure, hesitation becomes costly and clarity becomes essential. Individuals learn to evaluate options quickly, to trust their judgment, and to take decisive action. This decisiveness becomes a powerful advantage, enabling them to move forward while others remain stuck in uncertainty. It is also important to recognize that pressure is temporary, even when it feels overwhelming in the moment. Difficult seasons pass, challenges evolve, and circumstances change. Yet the strength developed during periods of pressure remains. This strength becomes part of the individual's identity, a lasting resource that can be drawn upon in future challenges. In this way, pressure leaves behind a permanent legacy of resilience and confidence. There is a quiet pride that emerges from successfully navigating pressure, a deep sense of accomplishment that cannot be obtained through comfort alone. This pride is not based on recognition or applause, but on the knowledge that one has endured difficulty and emerged stronger. It reinforces self-belief, creating momentum that carries progress forward. As individuals continue to face and overcome pressure, they begin to seek it intentionally, recognizing its value as a training ground for excellence. They set ambitious goals, embrace demanding challenges, and step into situations that stretch their capabilities. This willingness to engage with pressure distinguishes high achievers from those who remain confined by fear, for growth requires exposure to difficulty, and success demands resilience. Ultimately, pressure is not a barrier to winning. It is a pathway to becoming the person capable of winning. It reveals strengths that were previously hidden, exposes weaknesses that require improvement, and builds the discipline necessary to sustain success over time. Those who learn to embrace pressure, rather than avoid it, discover that they possess a level of strength far greater than they once imagined. And so the lesson stands firm. Do not fear pressure, do not run from difficulty, and do not retreat into comfort when challenges arise. Stand steady, remain focused, and allow pressure to shape your character. For in the moments when life becomes demanding, when expectations rise and obstacles appear, you are given an opportunity to prove something important, not to others, but to yourself, that you were not built to be comfortable, but to rise, to endure, and to win. Chapter 5. The Discipline of Finishing What You Start. There is a powerful difference between starting strong and finishing strong, and that difference determines the trajectory of most lives. Many people begin with enthusiasm, fueled by inspiration, excitement, and the promise of a better future. Yet enthusiasm alone is temporary, fading as soon as difficulty appears or progress slows. Finishing, on the other hand, requires something deeper than excitement. It requires discipline, persistence, and an unwavering commitment to see a task through completion, even when motivation disappears and obstacles emerge. The world is full of starters, individuals who initiate projects, set goals, and make bold declarations. Yet it is the finishers who create results, build reputations, and earn trust. Finishing what you start is not simply about productivity. It is about identity. Each completed task reinforces a powerful message to the mind. I am someone who follows through. This message builds confidence, strengthens self-respect, and creates momentum that carries into future challenges. Conversely, unfinished tasks accumulate like silent burdens, draining energy and creating doubt about one's ability to succeed. Over time, a pattern of incompletion can lead to hesitation, procrastination, and a loss of belief in one's own capabilities. There is also a practical dimension to finishing. Opportunities often arise not from talent alone, but from reliability, from the consistent demonstration that responsibilities will be handled with care and commitment. Employers, partners, clients, and collaborators place their trust in individuals who deliver results, not those who rely on potential or promises. Reliability becomes a form of currency, opening doors that remain closed to those who fail to complete their work. In this way, finishing becomes a strategic advantage, distinguishing serious individuals from casual participants. One of the greatest challenges in finishing is the period known as the middle, the stage where initial excitement has faded, yet the reward remains distant. This is where most people lose momentum, not because the goal is impossible, but because the process feels repetitive, slow, and demanding. The middle requires patience, consistency, and the willingness to continue working without immediate recognition. It is a quiet phase of progress, where discipline replaces motivation and persistence becomes the driving force. The discipline of finishing also teaches resilience, the ability to push forward despite setbacks and unexpected obstacles. Rarely does any meaningful goal unfold exactly as planned. There are delays, mistakes, and moments of doubt that test commitment. Those who succeed are not those who avoid challenges, but those who adapt, adjust, and continue moving forward. They understand that setbacks are temporary and that persistence eventually produces results. Another important aspect of finishing is focus, the ability to concentrate on a single objective until it is completed. In a world filled with distractions, new opportunities, and constant interruptions, maintaining focus becomes increasingly difficult. Many individuals abandon projects not because they lack ability, but because they are tempted by the next exciting idea before completing the current one. This pattern creates a cycle of unfinished work and wasted potential. Discipline breaks this cycle by prioritizing completion over novelty, ensuring that energy is directed toward meaningful outcomes. There is also a psychological reward associated with finishing, a deep sense of satisfaction that comes from completing a challenging task. This satisfaction is not dependent on external recognition or financial gain. It is rooted in the knowledge that effort has been transformed into achievement. It strengthens confidence and reinforces the belief that future goals can be accomplished through persistence. Finishing what you start also builds credibility, both with others and with yourself. When commitments are honored consistently, trust grows naturally. Others learn to depend on your word, and you develop confidence in your own reliability. This credibility becomes a foundation for leadership, influence, and long-term success. People are drawn to individuals who demonstrate consistency and follow-through, recognizing them as dependable and capable. It is important to understand that finishing does not require perfection. Many people delay completion because they fear mistakes or criticism, striving for flawless results before declaring a task finished. This pursuit of perfection often leads to procrastination and missed opportunities. Progress, not perfection, is a true measure of success. Completing a task and refining it later is far more valuable than leaving it unfinished in pursuit of an ideal that may never be achieved. As the habit of finishing becomes ingrained, confidence grows steadily. Each completed goal becomes evidence of capability, reinforcing the belief that challenges can be overcome. This belief fuels ambition, encouraging individuals to pursue larger and more meaningful objectives. Momentum builds, creating a cycle of success in which completion leads to confidence. Confidence leads to action, and action leads to achievement. The world rewards finishers because finishing demonstrates discipline, responsibility, and determination, qualities that are essential for long-term success. It signals that the individual is serious, committed, and capable of delivering results. These qualities attract opportunity, respect, and recognition, creating pathways that remain unavailable to those who fail to follow through. And so the lesson becomes clear and enduring. Starting is important, but finishing is transformational. It converts intention into reality, effort into achievement, and potential into tangible results. Those who develop the discipline of finishing what they start gain a powerful advantage, one that compounds over time and shapes the course of their lives. Carry this principle forward with determination. Complete the work in front of you. Honor your commitments. Push through the difficult middle. And remember, the true measure of strength is not how boldly you begin, but how consistently you finish. Because you were never built to remain comfortable, and you were certainly built to win. Chapter 6. The identity of a winner is built daily. Winning is not an event. It is not a single breakthrough, a lucky moment, or a dramatic achievement that suddenly transforms a life. Winning is an identity, and like any identity, it is constructed slowly, deliberately, and repeatedly through daily behavior. The world often celebrates the visible moment of victory, the promotion, the business success, the financial milestone. Yet what remains hidden from view are the thousands of disciplined decisions that created that outcome. Those who consistently win understand a fundamental truth. Success is not something you chase occasionally. It is something you practice every day. There is a dangerous myth that winning requires extraordinary talent or rare opportunity. This belief discourages effort and creates the illusion that success belongs only to a fortunate few. In reality, most victories are the result of ordinary actions performed consistently over long periods of time. Waking up on schedule, keeping commitments, managing time wisely, learning new skills, and maintaining focus during difficult moments may appear simple. Yet these behaviors accumulate powerfully. They form habits, and habits shape identity. Over time, the disciplined individual begins to see themselves differently, not as someone hoping to succeed, but as someone who operates with intention and control. Identity is reinforced through repetition. Each time you choose discipline over distraction, preparation over procrastination, and responsibility over avoidance, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. These votes may seem small in isolation, but together they create a pattern, and patterns define character. The individual who consistently honors commitments begins to trust themselves. Self-trust becomes confidence, and confidence fuels further action. This cycle of discipline and belief becomes the engine that drives long-term success. There is also a practical dimension to building a winning identity. When discipline becomes routine, decision-making becomes easier. Instead of negotiating with yourself each day about whether to work, study, exercise, or improve, action becomes automatic. Energy is no longer wasted on internal debate. Focus is directed toward execution. This efficiency creates momentum, allowing progress to continue even during periods of low motivation or external stress. Consistency also creates resilience. Life inevitably presents obstacles, unexpected challenges, and moments of disappointment. Those who rely on motivation alone often struggle during these periods, yet those who rely on disciplined routines remain steady. Their habits provide structure, stability, and direction when circumstances become uncertain. They continue moving forward, not because conditions are perfect, but because their identity demands action. Another important aspect of a winning identity is responsibility. Winners do not blame circumstances, complain about setbacks, or wait for perfect conditions. They take ownership of their outcomes, recognizing that progress begins with personal accountability. This mindset shifts focus from external limitations to internal control, empowering the individual to take decisive action regardless of circumstances. Responsibility also encourages continuous improvement. When individuals accept ownership of their results, they become more willing to evaluate their performance honestly, identify weaknesses, and make necessary adjustments. This process of reflection and refinement leads to growth, turning mistakes into lessons and setbacks into opportunities. Over time, improvement becomes a habit, and excellence becomes a natural outcome. The identity of a winner is also shaped by standards, the expectations you set for yourself, and the boundaries you refuse to cross. High standards create discipline, while low standards invite complacency. When you demand excellence in your work, your behavior rises to meet that expectation. You prepare more thoroughly, act more deliberately, and maintain focus even when distractions appear. Standards act as a compass, guiding decisions and ensuring consistency. There is a quiet strength that develops when discipline becomes part of identity. It is not loud or dramatic, but steady and reliable. This strength allows individuals to remain calm under pressure, to persevere through difficulty, and to maintain focus during uncertainty. It creates a sense of control, the confidence that progress will continue as long as effort remains consistent. Winning also requires patience, the willingness to invest effort today without immediate reward. Many individuals abandon their goals because results do not appear quickly enough, yet meaningful progress often unfolds slowly. Patience allows discipline to work over time, turning small improvements into significant achievements. It transforms effort into momentum and persistence into success. As discipline becomes routine, the individual begins to notice subtle changes. Tasks that once felt difficult become manageable. Challenges that once seemed intimidating become familiar. Confidence grows steadily, not from temporary motivation, but from repeated evidence of capability. This evidence reinforces belief, creating a powerful foundation for future success. The world responds differently to individuals who operate with discipline and consistency. Opportunities begin to appear, responsibilities increase, and trust grows. People recognize reliability and competence, qualities that signal readiness for greater challenges. These opportunities are not random. They are the natural result of disciplined behavior sustained over time. Ultimately, the identity of a winner is not determined by titles, income, or recognition. It is defined by behavior, by the daily choices that shape character and determine direction. Winning is not reserved for special moments. It is built through ordinary actions performed with extraordinary consistency. Carry this principle into every area of life. Protect your routines. Honor your commitments. Maintain your standards even when no one is watching. Understand that greatness is not created in a single day, but in thousands of disciplined days stacked together. Because you were never designed to drift through life in comfort. You were built to act with purpose, to grow with discipline, and to win through consistency, one day at a time. Chapter 7. The standard you tolerate becomes the life you live. Every life is governed by standards, whether those standards are spoken aloud or silently accepted, and the quality of those standards determines the quality of outcomes that follow. Standards are not defined by what you desire, but by what you tolerate. You may desire success, financial freedom, respect, or excellence. Yet if you tolerate laziness, inconsistency, distraction, or mediocrity, those lower standards will quietly override your ambitions. Life does not respond to wishes. It responds to behavior, and behavior is shaped by standards. Many individuals unknowingly live below their potential because they have gradually lowered their expectations of themselves. They allow small compromises to accumulate, arriving late instead of on time, finishing tasks halfway instead of completely, accepting average performance instead of striving for improvement. These compromises may seem harmless in the moment, yet they create a pattern, and patterns define identity. Over time, the standard of good enough becomes a ceiling that limits progress. Raising your standards is one of the most powerful decisions you can make because it changes the way you approach every responsibility. When standards rise, effort increases naturally. Preparation becomes more thorough, attention to detail becomes sharper, and discipline becomes stronger. You begin to demand more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of respect for your own potential. This shift transforms ordinary work into high-quality performance. There is also a psychological effect that accompanies higher standards. When you consistently meet demanding expectations, confidence grows. You begin to trust your ability to deliver results, even in challenging situations. This trust reduces hesitation and increases decisiveness, enabling you to act quickly and effectively. Confidence built on performance is far more reliable than confidence based on hope. The environment you create around yourself also reflects your standards. A person who values discipline organizes their time carefully, protects their focus, and eliminates distractions that interfere with progress. A person who values growth seeks knowledge, develops new skills, and surrounds themselves with individuals who encourage improvement. These choices shape daily behavior, reinforcing the standards you have set. Lower standard, by contrast, invite disorder. Deadlines are missed, responsibilities are delayed, and opportunities are overlooked. This disorder creates stress, frustration, and a sense of lost control. It becomes difficult to maintain momentum because the foundation of discipline is weak. Over time, the consequences of low standards become visible in declining performance and limited progress. It is important to understand that raising standards does not require perfection. Perfection is unrealistic and often paralyzing. High standards simply mean committing to consistent improvement, refusing to settle for careless work, and maintaining discipline even when motivation is low. It is about doing your best with the resources available and striving to improve with each effort. Another important truth about standards is that they are contagious. The expectations you set influence the behavior of those around you. When you operate with discipline and consistency, others begin to respect your time, value your contributions, and trust your reliability. This respect creates opportunities for leadership, collaboration, and advancement. Raising standards also strengthens resilience. When expectations are high, challenges are approached with determination rather than avoidance. You prepare more thoroughly, anticipate obstacles, and remain focused on solutions. This preparation reduces anxiety and increases confidence, allowing you to navigate difficulty with clarity and control. There is a moment in every journey when individuals must decide whether to maintain comfortable habits or pursue higher standards. This decision often requires sacrifice, giving up distractions, reducing leisure time, and accepting temporary discomfort in exchange for long-term success. Those who make this choice discover that discipline becomes easier over time, as new habits replace old ones and progress becomes visible. High standards also create accountability. When you commit to excellence, you become responsible for your actions and results. You evaluate performance honestly, identify areas for improvement, and take corrective action when necessary. This accountability fosters growth, turning mistakes into valuable lessons. As standards rise, so does the quality of outcomes. Work becomes more efficient, relationships become more reliable, and confidence becomes more stable. Progress accelerates because effort is directed with precision and purpose. The individual begins to experience a sense of control, the assurance that success is not random, but the result of disciplined behavior. The world rewards individuals who maintain high standards because they produce consistent results. Employers trust them, clients rely on them, and communities respect them. These rewards are not accidental. They're the direct result of disciplined performance sustained over time. And so the lesson becomes unmistakably clear. The standard you tolerate becomes the life you live. If you accept mediocrity, mediocrity will follow. If you demand excellence, excellence will grow. Every decision, every habit, and every action reinforces the standard you have chosen. Choose carefully. Raise your expectations. Protect your discipline. Refuse to settle for less than your potential, because you are not built to drift through life accepting average outcomes. You were built to set higher standards, to maintain them with consistency, and to win with discipline. Chapter 8. The moment you decide, your life changes direction. There comes a defining moment in every serious journey, a moment that does not arrive with noise, applause, or dramatic fanfare, but quietly, internally, when an individual makes a firm decision about the kind of life they will live and the standards they will uphold. This moment is not about luck, talent, or perfect timing. It is about commitment. It is the point at which hesitation ends and responsibility begins, the moment when excuses lose their power and discipline takes control. From that moment forward, direction replaces confusion, and progress becomes intentional rather than accidental. Many people believe that change happens gradually, and in many ways it does. Yet the trigger for change is always a decision. Before the visible progress, before the improved results, before the recognition and reward, there's a quiet internal shift, a declaration that the current level of effort is no longer acceptable and that a higher standard will now define daily behavior. This decision acts as a turning point, redirecting energy, focus, and attention toward meaningful action. The power of decision lies in clarity. When you decide what you truly want, uncertainty fades, distractions lose their appeal, and priorities become obvious. Instead of drifting from task to task, reacting to circumstances, you begin to act with purpose. Time is used more deliberately, and effort is applied more efficiently. This clarity creates momentum, allowing progress to accelerate. There is also a sense of ownership that accompanies decision. Once you commit to a goal, responsibility becomes personal. Success is no longer dependent on external conditions or other people's actions. It becomes a result of your own discipline, preparation, and persistence. This shift in mindset is empowering because it places control firmly in your hands. Decision also builds courage. Each time you commit to a course of action and follow through despite difficulty, confidence grows. You begin to trust your judgment, knowing that you have the strength to handle challenges and adapt when circumstances change. This trust becomes a source of stability, enabling you to face uncertainty without fear. However, decision alone is not enough. A decision must be supported by consistent action. Without action, commitment becomes intention, and intention without execution produces no results. Discipline transforms decisions into progress. It ensures that daily behavior aligns with long-term goals, creating steady movement toward success. One of the most important decisions an individual can make is the decision to take responsibility for their future. This decision eliminates blame and excuses, replacing them with accountability and action. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions, you begin to create opportunities. Instead of reacting to challenges, you prepare for them. This proactive mindset is the foundation of achievement. There is also a ripple effect created by decisive action. When you commit fully to your goals, others begin to notice your consistency and reliability. Opportunities appear, partnerships develop, and trust grows. These outcomes are not random. They are the natural result of disciplined behavior sustained over time. Another important aspect of decision is persistence. A single decision does not guarantee success unless it is reinforced repeatedly. Each day presents new choices, and each choice either strengthens or weakens your commitment. Consistency transforms a single decision into a lasting habit, ensuring that progress continues even when motivation fluctuates. The most successful individuals understand that decisions are not made once, but daily. Each morning, they choose discipline over distraction, preparation over procrastination, and responsibility over comfort. These repeated decisions create momentum, turning small actions into significant achievements. As commitment deepens, confidence grows stronger. You begin to see evidence of progress, improvements in performance, increased productivity, and greater control over your time and energy. This evidence reinforces belief, creating a cycle of motivation and action that drives continued success. The world responds to decisive individuals because decisiveness signals readiness. It demonstrates seriousness, reliability, and determination. People trust those who act with clarity and follow through on commitments. Opportunities naturally gravitate toward individuals who demonstrate consistent effort and strong leadership. Ultimately, the moment you decide is the moment your life begins to move in a new direction. It is a turning point that separates intention from achievement and potential from reality. From that moment forward, every action becomes purposeful, every effort becomes meaningful, and every challenge becomes an opportunity to grow. Carry this principle with you. Decide who you will become. Decide what standards you will uphold. Decide what level of discipline you will maintain. Then act on that decision every day, without hesitation and without compromise, because the life you desire will not be created by chance. It will be created by decision, discipline, and relentless consistency. And once you decide to rise, nothing can keep you comfortable and nothing can stop you from winning.